This is Ivan, and Ivan really wanted to learn chess and to get better at the game. There is something about that 2000 elo that really impressed him at 700, and so he joins a chess club, plays a bunch of games, and guess what? Nothing happened. After this, his little brother, little Ivan, decided to tell him, take this I am as a chess coach because he took me to 1700 elo in chess. After a back and forth of no and yes, Ivan decided to say okay, and he knew exactly what to do next. Alright, so let me show you now my own results, alright? And this is basically my own elo increase over the approximately like 2-3 years, 2.5 basically that I play chess, right? And so I'm just showing this to basically show you, okay, this is what worked for me at least, alright? And what worked for a beginner. Let's get quickly into the first example. It's relatively simple for beginners to level up. There is so much misinformation out there that you don't know really what to focus on. At least that was my own experience when I started to learn chess. Here we have this position. Black is a lot better than white. We don't really need to get right now for why precisely is black winning, but just so you know, he has a pawn advantage, and this pawn here is extremely strong. It causes a lot of pain for white. Okay, the white needs really to actually develop the knight to 2. He cannot develop the knight to f3, alright? And if he would have done this, it would still be extremely difficult for him to do anything with this bishop. So if bishop would have been here, okay, and the knight would have been here again, this would be still super difficult for him to do anything with development. Black is better because of that, plus having a pawn advantage, plus having this pawn right here. Just for general information, black actually made a mistake. He made the move pawn to a5. It looks like a mistake, and it is, and as you can see, it makes the position equal because it gives away basically these two advantages. Okay, it gives away the advantage of being +1, right, of being up a pawn, and what it allows is basically for white to take this pawn. Okay, makes a huge pawn chain. The knight will have to move away, and then this pawn that you've had as a huge thorn is going to likely, not immediately but soon, to fall. This is suddenly equalizing the position. Okay, and white saw it. Okay, he took with the pawn, so d takes c5. Okay, and as you can see, there's a huge pawn chain. I need to tell you something before that. Think, okay, what you would have done for black right here in this precise position. Okay, take a look at everything. Have one candidate move that you are really thinking, this is what I'm going to do right away. Right, so hopefully you have paused the video. I hope you've done it and actually picked a move. This knight right here, and by the way, this is an example for beginners, alright? This is this is a 700 and a 900, okay? That we're playing, so you probably think, okay, this knight is under threat. I need to probably move it somewhere, okay? Maybe here, okay, but still I'm not sure. Maybe here, probably not here because it's just gonna probably take somehow. So you're probably thinking, okay, I'm gonna move this knight away. If black would have done this, he would also be completely right, but take a look into what black does. Black thinks, I see the queen on d1. I can threaten the queen, okay, from here, and then I wouldn't need to move the knight, okay, because he's gonna have to respond to this because the queen is better than a knight. What he does is he does the move bishop to g4, and so what he forgets is that the queen is straight in front of your opponent's queen, and you can see this is a blunder. You've basically neglected that. White can do is he can just take the queen here, okay, the rook is gonna take. Now you've ended up losing a knight, right? And guess what? White saw it again. Okay, if you're gonna make a mistake in chess, your opponent is very likely to see. After this, bishop takes on c6, so first of all damaging their pawn structure. B takes, okay, queen takes on d8 now, and rook takes, and now suddenly this knight is going to be left hanging. You can go right now to chess.com or Lichess or where you play chess. See in the archive of games, usually they have the platforms have these, okay? Just click on one of these games and see does a move which appears with this color exists, okay? If this exists, okay, it's a blunder. That is the problem, okay? Because these moves, they turn a game from even winning a game like black has been a while ago or equal position to a completely losing one, okay? right here. And so really to level up from beginner to any level, okay, we needed to first of all fix this thing, okay? It's going to give us a lot more control of how we play the game itself. Let's get to the second example, and then I'm going to show you basically how to fix this. All right, so here is our second example. This time it's not like a middle game. This time it is not an opening like it was before. How do you know if an opening is over? Okay, basically if the two sides castle, it's no longer the opening. Okay, so it's still relatively the opening. Okay, here it's the end game. Basically the end game, it starts after the two queens have been exchanged or removed from the board. And when that happens, basically a game is considered the end game. There are times, for example, that a game can have an opening and an end game without the middle game itself, just because the queens have been exchanged in the opening, and that can happen sometimes. For example, here, okay, it's the end game. White made the move rook to c6, doesn't really matter, okay? I'm gonna move right here, rook a7, and then white does g3. The idea is to have some safety from a rook to a1, okay? And so it's very good. So I want you to think right now, okay? You are black. Pause the video and ask, what would you do if you were black right here in this position? Alright, so I hope you have paused. You were probably thinking something like, okay, I see that this bishop is under threat, okay, because the pawn, obviously. I see that my other pawn is under threat. Probably you weren't taking a look at this pawn, which is under threat, and mostly on this bishop, okay? Beginners have this issue where they're just forgetting about pawns, and so it's very actually easy to get from a stronger beginner into intermediate, okay, by just taking pawns, okay? But this isn't the case, okay, because obviously your bishop is under attack, and so you're probably thinking, okay, I'm gonna move this bishop probably here, defending this pawn and moving away this bishop. So for example 7. If black would have done this, would have been still completely winning. Right, he's winning because he has a pawn advantage, and just these pawns are a lot more advanced, and a bishop for a knight, okay, which isn't really that strong. And if black would have done this, bishop to e7, okay, it would have been completely fine. But here's the thing, black was thinking, I'm gonna do pawn to f4, he's gonna take, and after this I'm gonna have my pawn on f3, blocking these two parts, and then I can threaten a mate. I want you to pause the video and ask yourself what black had neglected and forgotten about this entire idea of making a decoy. Hopefully you have paused. What black really have missed is that the rook could just come back, okay? If you're putting the pawn here, so the king can only move like to the sides, this is illegal, okay, but like this, and the rook is here. If he does this, okay, basically where he puts the pawn here, white can just move the rook back. Now basically he's up an entire piece and he's completely fine, okay? And so after f4, g takes f4, and f3, white can move the rook here, okay, to c1. And now white is completely winning. So let's return for a moment for the first example. Let's ask ourselves how to actually solve this, okay, because this is clearly the problem, okay, that beginners face. How do we solve this, okay? And it's actually very, very simple, all right? It's not that complicated. We just do something which is called a blunder check, and we can also add 2 more questions, okay, to really clarify this. There's many options, okay, to basically solve this, and I'm gonna show you one which is very simple. So I basically ask 3 questions. We ask these questions really before every move that we make, okay? So for example, let's say we are here, okay? We've made a mistake, okay? This can happen sometimes, okay? We just it's inevitable to make these types of mistakes. But let's say we're here, okay? We ask 3 questions. How can I improve my own position? How can I damage my opponent's position? And is the move that I'm thinking about a blunder, right? And so let's say for a moment I think, okay, I'm black, okay, how can I improve my own position? Obviously you need to look at the whole board, okay, so you need to focus from a8 to h1, okay? Not being overly focused on one thing, because then you're gonna forget, for example, that the pawn is threatening on f6. How can we improve our own position? This knight is clearly under threat. Think about this knight, okay? Maybe we move it back, okay, but again, this makes the knight weaker. This knight is pinned, right? And so actually we can move the knight here, okay, because nothing can really take him if we focused on everything all together. Maybe you think, okay, I'm gonna move this knight here. This is also a mistake, because then he can do these moves. Now has the advantage because he developed. Underdeveloping here or here, or really anywhere, is considered not the best thing to do. Doing something along taking here, the rook is gonna take, let's hypothetically, then we move our bishop here to check on the king, and he's gonna take. It looks something like this. Takes, okay, the rook takes, right, the bishop takes, pawn takes. This is one idea that we can have. Maybe something else is just moving the knight here, okay, but you're gonna think about these types of moves, okay, that they are not completely harming you in any way. This is the first question. The second one is how can we hurt our opponent's position, okay? And so this is where you think about ideas like bishop takes here, okay, because that damages his pawn structure. And because after this, okay, he basically gets this thing. Okay, now he basically has double pawns. This is another option that you can do, okay? How can we damage our own position? We have this move, okay? We can do this to help strengthen our own knight, right? So we have these types of moves. Let's say for a moment that you also think about a third candidate move, bishop to g4, okay? And you think, I'm gonna threaten the queen, okay? And then I can move the knight away to strengthen it. But then you're gonna ask yourself the third question. Is this move a blunder? Okay, and you're gonna figure out that yes, it is a blunder because it can just takes, and now you've lost the knight. Once you get that yes for it is in fact a blunder, you're gonna discard the move completely, and you're gonna just move to decide between two moves, and naturally you're not gonna make moves like this anymore. And so I wanna give you some action steps if you really like wanna practice on how to make this a thought question process, okay? It's very easy to practice these things, and so there's like three things that we can do, okay? So the first one is like you can write this down and stick it somewhere very close. I'll actually show you my own way of doing this. What we can do for this is just write it down, stick it to somewhere very close, and then when we are playing an actual game, you're going to naturally look to the side, and you won't memorize it immediately, but it's going to be a lot easier to memorize it for the long run, right? So this is one thing that we can do. Mine is more complicated, very close to me, and so when for example, playing versus bots, okay, or practicing, I naturally look sometimes to the side, okay, and then I see this and I just think, okay, what does my opponent want, okay, and some questions that I'm asking myself, okay, but for beginners, okay, write the simple thought question process that we've talked about and just take it somewhere very close. This is the first thing. The second is we immediately want to practice it versus bots. And why is this? Bots are very good for the fact that they make also some weird blunders, but they are also likely to pick on us when we make blunders ourselves. Not all the time, of course, these are bots after all, but that is likely to happen. And really, we don't want to play as fast as possible, so it's okay to play versus just like 2-3 bots, but to just practice it a lot more than what we're usually used to. And so now it's pretty simple, okay? Now we want to play versus actual players, okay, on Rapid Online, and that I think is going to make it a lot easier not to blunder and also to counter when our opponents are going to make a blunder, right? And so if you've reached this far, I want to actually give you a little tip for how to play versus online players, and that is really to just play at very long time ranges, okay? So for example, I know that a lot of you are used to playing 10 minutes, and so what you can do right now, literally like not after this video, but as of right now, go to the browser or wherever you just play chess in, and just switch the time control from 10 minutes to 30 minutes, or even 20 minutes, but 30 minutes is best in my opinion. That will literally just make it a lot easier next time you're going to play chess, because the time length you're playing in is gonna be longer. Thus, you will have more time to think, and thus you will make more accurate moves, okay? You'd make less blunders because of this, because you're naturally thinking more. And so that is something that we can also add. Plus, we'll have a lot more time to study the thought question process that we've done in this video, right? So thank you for watching. Okay, if you have any questions, leave them below. I will do my best to answer all of them. If you've reached this far, consider leaving a sub, okay? And I will be here next time that you basically go to your desktop to learn chess. And if you also want, then there's the first link in the description, and I will take you to 1600 elo as I've done already for myself. I can just make you copy exactly what I've done, and it's actually pretty fast. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.